Morning, client. We are Bad Boys Incorporated. I'm joined here today by Cadet Generelli and Cadet Helms, and I am Cadet Dyer. We're going to show you how we assessed your problem today.
And we're going to save the state of Illinois' economy. So let's get right into it. So where we began this process was with the problem definition. And within the problem definitions, we conducted three different steps. Starting off with the research conducted. I personally believe that might be one of the most important parts because this is where we found out our research and where we got a good idea of what needed to be fixed and what the problem was. And then we went to stakeholder analysis. And this is where we talked to different members of the community. You know, you had your local newly retiree, you had your director of operations, you had the highest of highs, you had the chief of staff of the governor, so you had your money makers, and then you had your workers who've worked their butt off their whole career just to make ends meet, and then you had your middle class. And then we go to develop a value model, and this is where we determined what we thought, based on what we thought was the most important and least important within our process to saving the state of Illinois' economy.
All right, here's our research conducted. Just some examples of what we were researching. So the reasons that people are leaving Illinois, the consequences of those people leaving Illinois, and then we were looking for our solutions. So what retirees were seeking in other states. So like for that, we were addressing our stakeholders, and especially our newly retiree stakeholder. What kind of amenities will sustain retirees in Illinois? So we were asking him like, why leave Illinois? And he addressed taxes are too high and he's not getting enough for his taxes. So and then the results of our findings were, it was really part of the problem of retirees leaving Illinois and then lowering the tax revenue and then having to increase the amount of taxes that our still working citizens are paying, and then the next generations, and they're gonna have to deal with that so-called debt that the retirees are leaving them with. And we concluded that this was a positive feedback loop that would drive up taxes for working citizens. So we need a system to keep Illinois' population and tax revenue where it is to prevent the taxes from climbing.
The stakeholder analysis. This was probably my favorite part of conducting the research because you got to talk to different people within the community. As you can see, we have Nathan Hale, and he's the director of the Boomer Project. So his main concern was like he was the owner of the project, or the owner stakeholder, and his main job was just to look at this project and understand how he could better it and what the problem is. And then you have Ann Bates, and she's the comptroller of the state. She's a user stakeholder. She's just under Nathan. And then you go to James, also a user. He's a senior representative of the National Association of Realtors, so he has a good understanding of housing costs, how the market is charging a lot more to buy a house and it's harder to find a house. And so many people are leaving because if they do sell their house, they profit so much money on it because of the economy. And then my personal favorite was Inch Crosby. That's a recent retiree, and that's a great example of the common man. You know, he grew up in the state of Illinois, worked in the factory his whole life, and then lived in the community his whole life, worked in the factory his whole life, and now he's a recent retiree, and now he's wanting to get out, and he's wanting to leave the state of Illinois because it costs too much to live, the healthcare is short, it's not well, state taxes are too much, and he's retired. So his source of income is coming from the Social Security. He's not getting paid anymore, so he has X amount of money to live on, and if he'd rather go down south somewhere that was more cheap, which makes more sense because he could sustain longer and live a more enjoyable life. And when we were interviewing these stakeholders, we were beginning to understand why retirees or so-called baby boomers were wanting to leave. We also learned how them leaving was affecting the rest of the community in a negatively way. You know, them leaving really put a hurt on the millennials, making them pay more, making them try to put up with what they were leaving. You know, it's hard for them to raise their family and live a good life when so many baby boomers are leaving, and that's making the tax revenue hurt and making taxes increase. Yep. So I'm gonna pass it off to Brian. Oh, never mind, I'm not. This is the development of a value model. So the first thing you do is you want to start off with creating a functional hierarchy. and 4 functions go into the functional hierarchy. And we thought it was necessary to put increase funding at 1, and then number 2, provide retirement benefits, 3, improve healthcare, and 4, attract immigration. Because with so many people leaving, we wanted to find out a way how we could attract more people to come to the state of Illinois. You know, I think Texas is doing a great job of attracting people to come to their state. We want to look at ways where we can attract people to come to the state of Illinois. And then after you create a functional hierarchy, you want to use stakeholder analysis, research, and functional analysis to create a value model. So you go functional hierarchy to your value model. Here we have optimized taxes, prioritize retirees so they quit leaving so much, decrease elderly cost of living, another reason why they're leaving, improve the job market, improve elderly care, build more hospitals, advertise communities, and plan events. Doing all of these 8 steps, we think that it will decrease the amount of people leaving the state of Illinois and make it overall a better community, a better state to live in. Now here's Brian.
I'll take it over here. So here's our qualitative value model. Kale just hit on most of it pretty well, but our main goal here is to decrease net immigration, meaning we both want to attract young families in to take some of that tax burden, and we want to stop baby boomers from leaving the state. So we have our 4 main functions that Kale just hit on, and then these sub-functions, also objectives, that branch off the 4 main functions, and then the ways we're going to measure each sub-function. Go ahead with the next one.
So here's an example of how we categorize our solution design. So starting off with discussing ideas and the generation process, and then the alternative generation, and then feasibility screening.
So for the idea generation process, first we use functional analysis and a functional hierarchy. So for functional analysis, we just kind of looked at what sort of functions we would need to address the problem and keep those people in our state while attracting new people in. And you kind of got to see that with our qualitative value model earlier. And then after we made, brainstormed some functions, we created a functional hierarchy where we sort of ranked what level each one we're at to see what's most important to us and what's most important to addressing the problem. And then here's just a photo of our functional hierarchy. Kale hit on all these earlier, just 4 main functions, 8 sub-functions or objectives to go under them.
And then here's our alternative generation, which is Zwicky's morphology, which we did in class. The team unintentionally used Zwicky's morphology because it was similar to what we were already doing. To lay out the main functions, we brainstormed and selected the 8 that fit our criteria best. So pretty much just like specifies or making it more specific to like what and how our ideas are going to be used. So like when we say improve healthcare, what does that mean? It means that we're going to build hospitals and clinics for our retirees to see Illinois as a better place than just leaving to go find those resources somewhere else.
And then lastly, our feasibility screening. So the team created a bunch of like criteria that each function sort of needed to follow under. So these factors included cost, people who work on the system, what resources it would like take for construction, the safety to construct these, and then ethical considerations. And when we were brainstorming, we were kind of going over each of these factors. So we kind of did it all in one, where we brainstormed, and while we were brainstorming, we were seeing if they were feasible and if they met all these criteria, so we could implement them into our system.
And then here's a bit of our cost analysis. So we had to start with the assumption of how much tax revenue we're going to have available to us. So based off of the 2023 tax revenue of Illinois, it was $50.7 billion of base revenue. So we're going to say it's going to be about the same this coming year. So we're going to say $50 billion. And then we want to put roughly 5% of our tax revenue going towards retiree amenities and decreasing retiree cost of living. And that's solely for the purpose of keeping retirees in the state. And then we want to spend roughly $500 million to build hospitals and clinics And we use that from a website which pretty much told us the average cost of what it costs to build a hospital was between $60 and $190 million. So we want to build a few of these like top of the line level hospitals and clinics that retirees can go to for when they're seeking better health care for the state of Illinois. And then $100 million to increase immigration via advertising the communities and improving the job market. And that's to bring in families to increase the tax revenue to counteract baby boomers leaving the state.
Yep. And here's our advertising slogan: Stay in Illinois, the land of the joy. And this is our reference. Thank you, client, for taking your time to listen to this brief. And I hope you can trust us and put your full confidence into us. Thank you. Money.